What's going on, everybody? My name is Mel, and welcome to Rejection is a Bitch podcast. I'm a master life and relationship coach, and I partner with divorcees and help them discover true acceptance from within. And one of the best parts of launching the podcast and overall with my business is receiving messages from others about how they can relate to my story, how they can see what themselves through what I went through. And that's the whole purpose of why I did this, honestly. I saw that I was alone during my journey. And when I was rejected during my divorce and during my recovery and healing stuff, I had to figure things out on my own. And I knew that if I can find a way to partner with people along their journey and get content out there that maybe can inspire others, that's exactly what I would do. So here we are. But what we're going to do in this podcast here and there actually is bring people on to tell their story. Not only tell their story, to give inspiration to others that help you understand you're not alone. We all can benefit from one another. And it's purpose behind everything that we go through. And today we're doing that with my friend Lillie. How's it going, Lillie?
It's going well. It's going well.
Awesome. It's an honor to have you here. You shared with me that you would like to get this out to my, audience, and also, anyone that may be tuning in. And if you're new to the channel, feel free to hit that subscribe button, hit the like, and share in the comment section anything you're getting from this conversation that we're going to have. Lillie, you have an amazing story, and I would just like to open up the floor for you right now. And however you like to lead this, you have the floor.
Okay, thank you, Mel. It's been a long process. I was married for 23 years. Both me and my spouse was in ministry together. I have two children, and was thinking I was going to be married for the rest of my time here with him. Never thinking that things would go the way they did. I had endured a lot. I know as marriages do, everybody has you have to work at marriage. It's a give and take. Everything is not going to be always honky dory. It's not always going to be a bed of roses all the time. But just being grounded in faith and always having faith in God, and just I knew what the part of me being a wife, being submissive. I knew all of those things, and definitely wanted my spouse to be a leader, and it didn't have a problem with following him and making sure to, build him up. I'm not going to say the word mold him, but help with building him up, because as you build your spouse up, also you building up yourself and your family. So never wanted to tear him down, because I know the Bible says a foolish woman would tear her own house down with her hands, and sometimes, a lot of times, with your mouth. And as women, we can do that. I ended up I've been divorced, separated 6 years now, divorced 5 years as of this year, everything. I want to say about 9 years now, 9 or 10 years ago. Some changes started to occur with my spouse. It was like unexpected changes to me, because it was like we had ministry in our house, in our home and stuff. So we had a lot of people come around us. Just interact. I had a women's ministry, he had a men's ministry. He started gravitating toward certain individual that he wanted to kind of convert to, because this guy was he was into Black Israelites. So I'm not here to put down any religions or anything like that, but this is part of my story, so I have to add this in there. And so my spouse felt like that he could transform or help out this guy to know the truth, but it didn't happen that way. And when he came to our house, I never forget. I don't know if you feel like this, Male, but for me, I feel like a wife should be also like, you cover your husband too. And so I could see things that he couldn't see, but I could see jealousy with this one individual, this one man that I'm talking about, and I saw it like weeks and months before any of this happened. I worked for Walmart for quite a few years. I went to work like I normally do, just a normal day, and left my house the way I normally do. Prayed for my spouse, because he was a truck driver. Sent my children to school like I normally do, just a normal day, nothing out of the ordinary. Went out one way, and I literally came home. And when I tell the story, some people be like, "How did that happen?" But it happened just like I'm speaking it. It sounds like a movie, but it happened just like I'm speaking right now. And came home that evening. My spouse literally told me, "This is what we gonna believe now. You're not gonna say the name of Jesus Christ." Everything that was associated with Christ. Pictures, everything was taken off the walls, and he was indoctrinating this new doctrine about Black Israelites, where they denounce the name of Christ, and you have to call him Yahweh instead of Jesus Christ. And all I've ever known is Jesus Christ. So, and I'm like, okay, hey, I won't really feeling this, and I didn't feel it, and it. This is how, I mean, this is literally what he told me. I just was like shocked. And he had already, my daughter was in college at the time. My son was there 4 years apart. He was there. I had to be grounded in my faith regardless of what would come, what would go. And it's strange because I remember this dream that I had, I think way before this happened. I know it was before it happened. I saw myself, it was a storm, big storm, and I could see my son, and I had my son trying to get him in this bubble, and it was just a storm. Everything is just blowing. And I was trying to get my spouse to get inside the bubble with us for protection, but he never would get in it. And so, and it's amazing. I'm thinking about that dream today, and I think that was God just letting me know and preparing me for what was coming, but didn't know exactly the severity of it, how it was going to change my life. He had already switched my children to believe in that, so it was already a house being divided with me because like I said, I've been grounded in my faith ever since I was a child, and because of my upbringing and the things I had to endure in my childhood, I always had my faith and my walk has always been really close to God, and God has always been very close to me because he knew I needed him. And so it was kind of like, it was definitely going to be hard to try to convince me. But every day it was never, we couldn't have normal discussions. It always had to be, well, how do you believe what you believe, and this and that, just trying to break down my faith and convince me to be on his side. Because that's the biggest thing. If a husband loses his wife's support, they lose all hope, and I just couldn't do that. And I ended up going on a fast. The amount of years I had been married, 20 some days, to match the years I've been married. Being in Walmart, Walmart is always busy, but I had a God moment then. I'm just crying out to God, very emotional in the floor. And I remember telling God, I was like, it feels like you're trying to take me out. And I was just weeping bitterly, just devastated. And I remember God just speaking to me, and just coming into my mind, just speaking into my heart, not saying I hear an audible voice. So let's clear that up, because sometimes when you say I hear God, people think you're hearing an audible voice. I'm not saying it like that. He just downloaded into my spirit, and he
Right.
spoke to me, and he just said, I'm not trying to take you out, but I'm trying to take you higher in me. I started losing my voice. I had already didn't have a voice from my childhood, but just losing my voice more, not being able to speak, um, not being able to pray, not being able to be who God wanted me to be, not being able to be, even though I'm there, walking on eggshells, being able to be a mother to my children, to say what I needed to say to them, because now our household has been split. I never be able to follow you again. I remember telling him that.
Mm.
And I remember a couple of times where he actually said to me when I was fasting and praying, he said, well, I said, I'm waiting on my husband to come back. And he said, well, he's never coming back. So I knew then that was a spirit talking to me. Um,
Yeah.
definitely.
Let me ask you this, Lillie. And first off, I want to say that sounds like a lot to deal with. It sounds like you have processed it all, and I mean, who wouldn't have the thoughts that you've had when you coming from doing this partner? I mean, having this partner in ministry, you guys believe in the same faith and just have a total shift, in his direction. And he's supposedly the leader. And so I mean, who wouldn't have that reaction that you did? But I want to ask you though, just out of curiosity, and for those who are watching that they may have this question. What would you say, to those who say that a wife should follow her husband's religion? You have in the a Muslim culture, I'm sorry, that if the husband's one way, they meet maybe an American wife or a Christian wife, she's required to convert. I know your dynamic is different, being that you all, were already married and had one faith. But what would you say to someone who has that question?
You got to look within yourself. You really have to look in yourself. I actually had a friend that I was on a job with that you bring this up, and her spouse was in, this was when, before any of this stuff happened in our marriage, and we worked together, me and my husband did, with this young lady, and her husband had got incarcerated, and he had went into the Muslim faith, and the first thing my former spouse warned her, said he could try to convert you, and she was like, "No." And this lady was really, really strong in the faith, and just like my former spouse said to her, it really happened. He converted her, and a lot of times we got to think about. A lot of people say, "Well, I love that person. I love that person," but you never get to the point that you make a person a god in your life, that you forsake the God that you know that's been the father of your life, especially if you're a Christian. Just even though you asked me about religion, this even goes beyond religion. It goes along with your morals, your beliefs, how you feel about yourself, all of those things. And even when I looked at a couple of your videos, Mel, you talk about acceptance of yourself from being rejected, of being able to accept who you are and love who you are, because you can lay all of those things down for that person, and you have made them a god. And if you were to lose this person, you will, that person, because you don't put all of your faith and all your hope in this person, and they wasn't the person you thought they were, and they let you down, you don't change up your whole dynamics, and people literally fall apart and have nervous breakdowns because of the fact that they have placed so much hope and so much confidence in a person, and you never do that. And I remember God even telling me, I had got to the point I had made my spouse a god. And well, for God to tell me that, and the scripture says, "Don't have any other god before me." And you can even do that with your spouse, and you never get to the point, because that's a thin line there where you put your strong beliefs and your strong morals to the side just to please this person, but then you displeasing God, and displeasing your relationship that you have with God for this one person. And so you can't do that. You have to be true to yourself and be true to who you are, and be true to your relationship with God. I can't just give one answer for everybody and say, like, because if somebody come across the video, they're gonna say, "Well, she told me to leave my husband." No, I'm not telling you that. But don't ever get into a relationship where you lose yourself. And this is for men too, where you start taking down your moral values and your standards, things you say you won't gonna do, things you say and you find yourself doing these things. Yeah. So that's not what I'm saying. So use your own judgment.
Right, absolutely. And that sparks another question for me. You said you made him your God. What was it that caused you to make him your God?
The reason I'm able to tell my story now too, I ended up talking to a good friend of mine I went to school with, and a lot of times, and I was thinking about this as I was getting ready, a lot of times we can take normalcy, that we think things that are normal, and make them normalcy. You can take chaos in your life or abuse or trauma and make it normalcy. And a lot of people are walking around thinking that's normal for them to be that way or act that way or function that way. And it's not normal. Like, I thought it was normal to keep everything inside. And that was not normal, because that goes back to my childhood. I was adopted when I was a few days old by a couple that were old enough to be my grandparents. And so a lot of I was listening to your video earlier when you was talking about rejection. That's the thing I brought up. I started doing a journey last year. I ended up talking to a therapist because I needed to talk to somebody. I had ministered to so many people in church, even while I was going through what I was going through, trying to heal while you bleed, heal people and help people while you bleed. And I was doing that, but still coming back home broken, still coming back home, walking on eggshells, still coming back home, trying to figure out how I'm going to get out this situation. How is God going to restore me? Is God going to fix it? What is he going to do? It goes all back to my childhood, just thinking it was normal because my mother taught me that it was normal. I went through mental, verbal, and physical abuse as a child, even being adopted. And then, like I said, just on my journey last year of talking to a therapist, realized something that I brought up to my therapist. And I was like, what do you do when a lot of people, you can experience, because you talk about experiencing rejection, but what do you do when you're born with a spirit of rejection? And I had to face that, because feeling that way from the time I was a child up into definitely last, still like on and off, still can feel that, because my mother was so young when she conceived me, and everything, just like when you carry a baby, when a woman carries a baby, everything she goes through and what she feels, if you put her through stress and strain, the baby gonna feel all of that. And so I felt all of that, whatever my mother felt, it was put on me. It wasn't a spirit of rejection that I chose, but it was birthed in me. And when I brought that up to my therapist, and she was like, "I never thought of that before," and I wonder, do how many people that would be listening today will even know that sometimes it's not just because you go up to a person and you ask them out. Rejection is not always like that, or you try to go for a job and you feel rejected. A lot of times you can be born with rejection. You can be born into situations and you pick things out of based on what you were born into. And I remember just picking, that's why I said I made my spouse a God. And God had to show me that, because I wanted to feel acceptance that I had never felt before. Not even in my childhood. And I felt like I had found this person that I felt acceptance for, but it was not acceptance like I thought it was, and validation.
That's so powerful. That's so powerful. I mean, born with that rejection, and I agree with your therapist. I've never thought about that, but there's so many people that can relate to that. You know, that it was something that not necessarily you chose, but it chose you.
I know you heard that saying a lot of times, hurt people hurt people. I don't think all the time people just want to reject people, but you got to go back and like really look at that dynamics. The woman that you encounter, or the man you encounter, if you look back at their dynamics, and sometimes, because I think about my childhood shaped a lot of my choices. Um, my lack of things that I had, lack of love, lack of acceptance. And then you can have too much of something, too much. I had too much abuse, too much trauma. And when you're not, I didn't choose this life, I didn't choose these things, but what am I going to do with it now? Am I going to sit around and be bitter, mad, angry? Am I going to be defeated, or am I going to keep handing out to other people what was given to me? But I didn't do that with my life, and I'm so thankful to God for that. That I didn't like hand out what was given to me. And I just love the way God designed things. And even though when I look back now, I'm 49. If I could have planned my story out, I still wouldn't have planned it out any different. Even though I've experienced the hurt, even though I experienced the pain, and it shaped my choices, even in my marriage, and um, picking out a partner. A lot of times we have to take a journey, and a healing journey just for ourselves, just to put yourself to the side and just work on yourself. And when I say work on yourself, that means you're going to have to face some things about yourself. You're going to have to face some hard truths. You're going to have to face some ugly things about yourself, why you do the things you do. And sometimes it ain't even because you want to do it. It's just because what was, like I was saying, I was birthed into it. But I don't use that for excuse, because I don't give out what was given to me.
Yeah, that's amazing. You mentioned something there, and it's actually taking me where I wanted to go. You said that you got to face those hard truths and those things about you that may be ugly or may not be so pretty to look at. Going back to your marriage here just for a second, if you had to point to anything as far as ownership that you would take, or responsibility on your end for anything, not necessarily the shift in his religion, but if you had to point to something that for the marriage in totality that maybe caused it to end, if you had to take on any ownership, what would that be?
Definitely, going back and just tracing my childhood, not knowing that I needed to work on a lot of things, not knowing how to work on things. Like I said, it shaped my choices. I brought this up with my therapist, just thinking like most of my life, I accepted scraps. And what I mean by that, a lot of times you might want love and validation so much. I wanted love and validation so much from my mother, because I already felt rejected. I remember going around and just hearing them say the word. I was a little girl hearing the word I was adopted. It was always brought up before me. I remember going to school and I didn't know what the word was, and I asked my teacher what it was, and she told me. And so from then on, I knew that they made me feel like it was different, and they made sure they said it. And so from that, it just stemmed a lot of things. So I always wanted acceptance. Or if I do this right, or I get this right, or I be this way, or please her, or please, and it shifted into the rest of my life. Even to now, I have to have boundaries for myself, even with people that I love, because one of my love languages is service, and because it goes back to my childhood, and thinking that I could serve people that would make them love me, and that's not where it was at. And that's why I said I accepted a lot of scraps. And I, even with my marriage, a lot of things that I went in not knowing, just thinking, well, this person is the right person for me. So I have to take ownership in that, just thinking and realizing that I shouldn't have been accepting scraps. And I just took every hand me down, or every scrap, anything was given to me, and I took that and accepted it, and just like made the most of it. And a lot of situations and things that I encountered with him, I just took it. I kept taking stuff. And a lot of times you stay in a situation, just like a lot of times people criticize people that are physically abused, and you can't criticize them because it has become a normacy to them. So I can't criticize them for that. A lot of people, because it's so easy to judge people when you're looking from the outside in, but that had became their normacy, and that was my normacy. But that's not my normacy now. I'm thankful for that. I'm so thankful to God that He showed me that, and it was, like I said, it was a hard truth I had to face. But I took a lot of things as normal. Like, you can make it normal that you're always apologizing to a person when they hurt you. I made things normal, and I shouldn't have. A lot of time I didn't speak up because it goes back to my childhood, not being able to have a voice. And so I took it into my marriage, and the same thing happened again. And so it became a cycle of normalcy.
You talk about that cycle of normalcy, and that journey of acceptance starting, from the time you were young. Where are you now on that journey to acceptance, from within?
I got to the point, stop caring about what people thought. That was my biggest thing. Stop worrying about what my children think, being able to say my story, not worrying about what they say, because this is my story, this is my journey, this is my healing, and it can help somebody else. So just not caring about what other people say. And I'm not saying it in a nonchalant way, but I would care so much to the point I would worry. Literally, when I was going through things with my spouse, that whole, that wasn't like months. That wasn't weeks and months. This ended up going into years, that what I had to go through before I even got out of it, to the point that God released me from it. I ended up suffering from IBS, went down to a size 7. Anybody know anything about IBS? Just so stressed, couldn't keep anything on my stomach. And so getting to the point you worrying like that, trying to keep on appearances, and my spouse was all about that, keeping up appearances, even though my marriage and it was in shambles with him. Keeping up appearance, a lot of people want to do that. My mother was the same way, want to keep up appearances, appear like everything is all right in the house. And I made it a normalcy, thinking I'm supposed to smile. But literally now I'm to the point that I smile. When I smile, it's real. It ain't no fake smile, it ain't no fake laugh. I'm really to the point that my laughs and my happiness is real now. It's not based and contingent on nobody else but me and God.
Yeah.
And I'm so thankful for that.
That's amazing. You sound like you just really have a sense of authenticity that's really what you're about now, instead of maybe looking the part and not having the happiness within. Like you mentioned earlier, like you go help a lot of people and then come home and and be hurting within.
Yeah,
So
I was.
like you really have that.
I literally took a step back from the church the last few years. God allowed me to, because He wanted me to work on myself. Because a lot of times you can be in church, and I got to the point that everybody thought I was all right just because I'm going through the motion. I'm showing up, I'm being a leader in church, and God said, you're not all right. And how many people go to church like that Sunday after Sunday, and they leaders, and just because you're showing up, you being in your spot, you showing up for your job, you're showing up for your wife, you're showing up for your husband, you're showing up for all of these people, but you're not showing up for yourself, and you still hurting, and you still broken, and you just showing up. You just a body. You're a shell of a person. You're not even living the abundant life that God spoke of. And we quoted that scripture for so many years, and I finally got it like a couple years ago. And I asked God that. I said, I want to live that abundant life that you talk about. And I know that abundant life is more than cars and houses and things that they say in church. It's about being happy and true to yourself, and being all right about who you are, your laugh, your smile, your crooked smile, your crooked leg, whatever. just being happy in who you are, not trying to be nobody else, not comparing your life to nobody else's life on Facebook. I don't measure myself based on other people's accomplishment. Everybody's journey is different. My journey is different than anybody else's. My journey is different than yours. Your journey is different than mine.
Let's address something really quickly, because I already kind of feel it in the atmosphere that someone's going to comment. Can't believe this woman is she's a Christian and she divorced her husband, or however the divorce took place, but she shouldn't be divorced. God hates divorce, and quote those type of things. She should have converted. Let's address what's going on in the church. Your situation is a little different, of course, because your husband switched faith, but the divorce rate is kind of equal, almost equal to the secular divorce rate.
Yeah, it is.
In your mind, what is going on in the church that's like not honoring marriage or not setting people up to have maybe a successful marriage?
One thing, people not being true to themselves. You got some people that's living a homosexual life and they marry just to keep up appearances. People want to please other people.
I say you just said something there. Homosexual lives. I mean, it's a lot going on there.
I mean, yes, what they call it. It's a lot. I have been on the down low. And some people, I have another friend that I had ended up coming in contact with. It's a lot of people that had to get out of these marriages, and that's why I say it's so easy to judge people from the outside. But until you walk in my shoes or some of the rest of the people's shoes, you don't know what they had to go through. Because I got to a point for myself, I literally, and I'm just being real and candid, I got to the point I was having thoughts that was not of God towards the end of my marriage. Thoughts about suicide, just being very real, being transparent, and knowing to the point that that's not how God wanted me to think of myself. Really dark thoughts, and people don't talk about that in church. Know your thoughts, even though I talk to God, and even though the pastors still talk to God, and the deacons, and the ushers, and the missionaries, whoever they are, from the back to the front. Everybody go through a dark season, regardless of who they are. And if they say they didn't, they lie, because everybody gonna go through a dark place in their life. If they haven't, keep on living.
Yeah, just because you become a Christian or go to church don't make you exempt from anything like that. It's hard to see in the church that But I would say I'm born and raised in church as well, and I just know that the foundation of marriage is not really harped on. It's not really preached. A lot of us, I would say in my generation for sure, you get married because they tell you, it's better married than to burn. And without context, without any type of context, and so you're making these decisions trying to avoid one sin, but you fall into a whole other pit of just confusion because you don't know how to be married. There's not enough of this type of conversation going on.
It's so easy to get into marriage and hard to get out. And I wanted to bring this point up because even for me, and I know a lot of people say, well, I can get that piece of paper, that divorce, they're just going to make everything all right. No, it doesn't. It's the whole process. I want to be really transparent about how I felt. Anger. I was pissed off. I don't know if you had to edit that. You edited it. I was angry with God because I wanted my marriage to work. I was angry about a lot of things. I lost a lot of friendships. Had a lot of smack talked about me. Some I know about, some I don't. People quick to judge me. I had a couple of my minister friends that told me, like you said, about it's not right for you to get divorced. You don't have any grounds. Yes, I do, because that was my grounds. When it get to the point that you can't let nothing else be another God, and God said it determined to let nothing separate me from the love of God, not height, not depth, not things to come. The rest of the scripture. Right. And so when it get to the point that your life is imbalanced like that, and you feeling all of these thoughts, somebody gonna get hurt. And it's so many. I don't know if you saw the video. This came out the other day. Young lady just shot and killed her husband on Facebook.
Oh yeah, I did see that. That was sad.
So before you get to them points like that, I'd rather for people to talk smack about you, walk away. If you can walk away, it's better to lose out on stuff. I walked away and lost $200,000 house and property, but my mind and my peace of mind was more important than stuff. people couldn't even understand that. A lot of people judged me for that. You walked away from your house. Yeah, I wanted my peace of mind. I'd rather been in a little shotgun shack house and have my peace of mind, because you can rebuild and start over again. It was going to be hell, death, or the grave, one or the other, or in jail. And I didn't want to face any of those.
Yeah, and Lillie, it's funny because that's my most common client that I have right now, the client that just can't seem to pull the trigger and leave.
They have to get courage, and only God can give them that courage and strength. It's so many different factors to that. We used to go minister to the women at the battered shelter, and I remember just a lot of things, just how they feel and stuff. That's why I say it's so easy to judge people and say, well, why they can't leave, because just like the women that you're dealing with, or the men, they can't get the strength to leave because they have made that enormity. Until they get to the point that they get sick and tired of being sick and tired, nobody gonna be able to get that strength and that courage up to move them. You can take a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. You every day you talking to them, trying to encourage them. You can do all the pouring in, and it's good. Keep pouring into them, because one day it's gonna come a moment. If they have a clear moment where that last straw that breaks the camel's back, and they have a clear moment, and they're gonna remember something that you said, and it's gonna resonate with them so much they're gonna just be putting stuff in a bag. They don't care about if the china cabinet still left with their mama's china in it. They're gonna be moving.
In a sense, you're saying, if I can do it, you can do it as well. Could you take a moment and take us back to that day you decided to pull that trigger? Like, what was the thing that got you out the door?
I had literally, like I said, I had started losing my voice. It was this emblem he would hang up, certain kind of onyx cross that people have now. It's an alt cross or something, I can't remember, and he hung it up. And I never forget, I had started doing prayer on the phone with one of the ladies, and God had just started giving me strength, because I wouldn't say stuff. I would just get to the point. I just didn't say stuff. I just let him just whatever he wanted to do. But that particular day, that it just vexed me, because he had it up on the wall in the bedroom, and I just got vexed, and I was like, if you don't take it, I said, take that down. He didn't want to take it down, and it got confrontation. I said, take that down, or I'm gonna take it down. And he had literally stripped all the things that I had, and I just got strength that day. That was one of the things I got strength on that day. But what really gave me strength was a video I ended up watching of myself with him, that we had ministered to couples for Valentine's Day, and I saw how I was sitting beside him, and I literally would do this thing where I would shrink myself, and I saw how I couldn't even be myself, and that was one of the main things I remember that caused me to do that. But I remember he was going out of town or something. He didn't even really tell me where he was going, and he took our son with him, and we had a big argument. He had been listening to me on the phone with one of my friends, and she had been trying to encourage me. She was like, well, how much longer are you going to keep taking that? And after he left, I got a bag, I packed my stuff, and I had left and came back again. But this last time, and I came back for my children. But I got to a point I couldn't even come back for my children because it was consuming me. This time I had to leave for me. It wasn't I was divorcing my children, because a lot of times you had to distinguish that with children, because the first thing they think, you're divorcing them. No, I didn't divorce you. I divorced your father. You never be able to divorce your children. I divorced their father. That was the main thing, because I was losing who I was. I was losing my peace of mind. I was walking on eggshells. I was losing weight. I was about to lose my mind. And I didn't want to keep arguing back and forth in front of my son like that. And I started experiencing, I know some people might not believe in spiritual warfare after that shift had happened. And they were after me. They were really after me, because when somebody else invites, I know you know the scripture about when it comes back and sees the house clean, and it'll try to come back again. And so the house had been cleaned out before, but those spirits tried to come back again, because they found a weak link, and they found the weak link was in my spouse. And so that's how they were able to come back in. And they literally, I remember being in my bed one time, and a demonic spirit actually walked up beside. I heard it walking down the hallway. I was the only one at home by myself. And I literally heard it was like really big, because I could hear how heavy the footsteps was. And literally was in my bed. I know some people call it like you being in your bed and you feel paralyzed, you can't move. And that's how it was. And I felt it walk up the sides of my body. and I never looked at it, but I knew it was like a huge, like a war, like a soldier, a big soldier demon, and it walked up the sides of my body, and it was trying in. But I remember just I couldn't speak, but I got enough strength to say Jesus, and I turned my body, my face away from it. I didn't even look at it, but in order to let it know that I wasn't afraid of it, but I was aware it was there. And so I knew the battle. This was more than just it was a battle definitely for my marriage, but it was a battle to take me out too. Demonic spirits are real.
Yeah.
Strongholds are real. Soul ties are real.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what you mentioned earlier, that it's not a cakewalk to leave. You deal with so much after, that divorce, and, it's because that tie is still there. It takes a while. That, there's the equivalency to death. I want to ask you there, Lillie, and just out of curiosity.
Okay, go ahead.
What regrets do you have?
Ooh. My main regrets, it was some things that went on before we got married that I found out afterwards. Just accepting a lot of scraps. That was normal. Um, Bad abusive behavior, that some stuff I just, when I moved here, I started having flashbacks. That was one reason I started taking on therapy. I would be coming home from work since I moved here to the here from my home state. I started having these flashbacks of stuff that conspired between me and my spouse. Biggest regret, just not knowing that I was enough, loving myself, knowing some of the things that I know now. That's probably my biggest regret. I'm not going to say all about my marriage because I love my children. I don't regret them. Probably, I would say biggest regret is not being in therapy sooner and addressing a lot of issues in my own life. Because if you could address issues in your own life, a lot of things you wouldn't, like I said, what happens in your childhood and all of that shapes who you pick. I don't know if you can relate to that, but it does. It can shape who you pick. It can shape the person that you pick and how they treat you and how you can be treated.
I definitely subscribe to that. We're all just a product of our environment, product of our upbringing. So much trauma that could be placed from our parents and things that we're dealing with that had nothing to do with us. Generational things that's been passed down.
Yeah.
Like you mentioned, things that were just waiting on us. Once we got here. I want to get towards the close here, but I want to ask you, what would you say you are right now on that healing journey?
I'm in a good place after having therapy, and I'm gonna go back into therapy just to, because it's always good to, just like a car, keep a tune up. Don't never think that everything is still. It's still things that I have to let go of and release and still be working on, because God's, every day you're still going to be growing and changing and shaping, even in a relationship. And but I'm in a good place. I love myself. Like I heard you say in one of your videos, I know what I'm going to accept and what I'm not going to accept now, and I can say that with boldness, and I'm thankful for that. A lot of things that your spouse can say to you towards the end can really shape you too. And I remember mine saying to me, nobody ever, and even though he came multiple times trying to get me back, you're never gonna find nobody to love you, or you're gonna die alone and by yourself. And I remember him saying that, and the words, they said sticks and stones will break your bones, or words will never hurt you. Words have power and meaning. And so if I continued to live under that, I would have kept living under it. But I had to, God wanted me to let that go and release that on last year. So I got to a point that I was ready to start dating. And I told my therapist, I was like, I'm ready to start dating. And I wanted to figure out what was he saying about me, was that true? And it was not true. You're not gonna find nobody and this and that. And it's just, people can condemn you with their words, and you can hold on to those words and they can shape you. But I was not gonna let those words shape me. And so I did embark on dating last year. I'm not gonna tell you the rest.
Oh,
but
she holding that on. She holding that on.
I just let you judge my smile.
I love it. I love it.
Well, because I'm learning. Yeah, you have to, especially from some of the toxicity that I went through towards the end of my marriage and even now. And even though I have children with him, we have to be mindful when you're trying to grow and build. You can't tell everybody everything. And I'm learning that even in this stage of my life, you have to move in silence. Um, and I'm moving in silence. That's why I'm not going to say too much. So my smile will just tell it all.
Well, good. I'm with you. I'm definitely with you on that. I mean, I get criticism to this day from my parents telling me, why you didn't tell us this? Why you didn't tell us that? Because y'all know and y'all would ruin stuff. I got to figure it out for my own, especially
All
coming
right
out
now.
of a broken situation, with
I know
chaos
that's
and all
right.
kind of stuff. You got to figure out on your own. But I'm very happy for you with that smile. I'll say that.
Thank you.
So, in closing here, Lillie, just for anyone right now that's facing rejection, in their marriage, and like I said before, they're maybe afraid to pull the trigger, or they may just be in the point where hey, I really want to fix things. I still think we have hope. How do I start the conversation? What do you say to anyone right now, deeply in their marriage, but deeply going through rejection? What would you say to them?
It's a lot of different type of rejection. You got to really look at, is it something that you can get past whatever they're dealing with? Because everybody's marriage is different. I don't think I can give just one answer that'll go like a band-aid for everybody's marriage, because it's not the same. You have to kind of like look at it. What are you dealing with? If it's a deal breaker and you can't get past it, and when I look back, even for myself, it was no exceptions. I was and not going to be. When you have some people can't go back because of the point that they have too much pain there. It's too much past there. I forgave my ex-husband, but do I want to go deal with him and have a friendship with him? No, that's for me. And so you have to kind of what'll work for you. But if it's like I said earlier, if it's diminishing you and you losing yourself, you losing your soul, and you're when you look at yourself in the mirror and you don't see who you are and you're not happy, it's just diminished. And I'm not saying, because some people try to make up and be like, well, she don't make me happy. People are not to make you happy. Your wife or your spouse is not to make you happy. You got to have happiness in yourself first, and whatever energy you give out, and you have back to you. If it's something past, some things people can't get past. You have to find out what works for you.
Energy attracts like energy. I always like to say that. But Lillie, this has been an amazing conversation, getting to know you more and hearing your story. We really appreciate you for being so transparent and available, and giving that these amazing words to other people, inspirational words to others. I want to allow you to close. Anything you would like to maybe plug? I know you have TikTok going, or anything else you'd like to talk about. But you have the floor again. You can have any last words you would like.
Just definitely, before you embark in a relationship, and I didn't, even though I went through the things I went through in my marriage, I didn't want to go out here, and I say to the women, don't go out here thinking all men are the same, judging every man by what you've been through. If you're doing that, you're not ready. You need to pick yourself, sis. Go sit back down, get a counselor, talk to somebody. Don't just keep talking to your girlfriends about the same thing. Sometimes you need to talk to an outside source, somebody that can tell you about yourself, and you're gonna have to take these hard truths and look deep inside of yourself. And for the men too, don't go out here, because I have encountered some men that they have dealt with some women that were counterfeits and takers, moochers, all sorts of stories I've heard. And when they come across you and you're a genuine person, they just think, well, you're not real, and don't think all women out here are the same, and you're gonna get the same. This is just another same woman I dealt with before. Some men that have encountered me, they shot their shot like that, and first thing they came out with their mouth was saying, well, I dealt with this woman, this and that, and they already judging, so they not ready. And so don't waste another person's time when you know you're not ready. And don't hurt other people because you're not ready. So just make sure you're right. Like I said, get a counselor, talk to somebody. And sometimes, and I'm not going against the church saying you can't talk to your pastor, but your pastor got problems too. Get you a counselor. Pay your money, your insurance. A lot of people's insurance on their job. Get you a private counselor, a Christian counselor. It's so easy to do. Just take the time to do it. And love. And that's part of self love. Love yourself enough to work on yourself, to clear out all the clutter in your mind, all them hurts, all those pains, so you can love again and you can be loved again. That's
so beautiful, beautiful. And I agree, you should talk to someone, and you are in luck because you're looking right at a life coach. I'm just joking. If a therapist don't work for you, feel free to hit me up.
That's right. Plug yourself.
It's exactly what we do.
Right.
We help people move forward to find those answers from within. So if you need it, feel free to hit me up on my website, lifecoaching.com. My email, melcoaching@yahoo.com. And also you can hit me up in any DM that you may be watching this on. Lillie, thank you once again. Really appreciate you for coming on. Hope you enjoy the rest of your evening.
I will. Thank you so much, Mel. Thank you for letting me come on. Absolutely. And I hope that said something to help somebody.
Absolutely. I have no doubt you did. All right. Take care.